Welcome to Soul Talk on Bomber Radio with Irene O. I call myself Irene O. But I want you to meet this lovely lady. I have been in her frequency. You forgive us, our language is going to flow there. But I've been in your frequency ever since I started showing up and trying to discover myself. And when I met you, the name that attracted me to you was Energy Queen. Because I was in that space where I was wanting to know myself more than what I had so far experienced and expressed myself. So this is Brenda Lynn, but I know her as Energy Queen. And because you were flowing in that vibration, that's how we got connected. And so we're here to share what we have individually, tangibly, I like doing this a lot, have tangibly experienced as what life is all about. I'll give you briefly about me. I don't know about you, but me, I was in that point of life where I've ticked off everything society required me to do, got the job, married, had kids, seen people pass on, but I felt like something was missing. So I started inquiring, what is life? There was a silence. Even now, if you ask someone to ask themselves, what is life? I want you to feel that silence. It's when you realize you actually didn't know what it is all about. So I embarked on that journey of self-inquiry. Long story short, we're here and they call it coming out of the closet, fully showing up for what I have since discovered and tangibly, I'm going to keep using this, tangibly experienced. In short, I've realized that life is actually a self-realization activity or experience or expression. I was raised to follow a certain script and formula, obedience and don't question. But I've since realized that I've created that expression myself. In short, self-realized my life's experiences. And as I've been journeying, I realized everybody actually gets to a point in their life where they say, hang on a minute, this is not who I came to experience myself. It's not something outside of me, it is in me. And I've since encountered you and realized you're actually in that space where you are aware that you're bigger than the body and that there is a you who is the creative force. So I want to ask you, as you became aware of this bigger self, how did it start? When did you realize to yourself that you're more than what you've been told?
I think one of the things I've realized over time is that this journey happens to us even as young children, but maybe we lack the intellectual capacity to process certain things. So for me, from a very young age, things would happen, and because again, I love the innocence of children, because when you're a child, it almost can feel like normal. It's only when you're an adult you're like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Okay.
But
Can you tell us what you experienced as a child?
Okay, so when as a child I would feel so much. I would feel the energies in the space, I would feel energies in people, and I didn't know that I would absorb other people's energies. I would sense that some people were wrong even before anyone else knew. I would sense that people were right even before anyone else knew. But I think what really stood out for me as a child, two things. One, I used to dream those who have transitioned talking to me and
they were real
messages, and they were real. And for me as a child, in that innocence, I would go and tell my parents, oh, do you know so and so, they told me to greet you, they said they're fine, and my parents would freak out. Would say, but how do you know that person? That person passed on before you were born. And for me it's like, he said hello, she said this. I remember also when my grandfather transitioned, which I didn't know, he came to me and he talked to me, and then they would go to the parents and say, oh, by the way, this is what he's saying. And I also remember my mom taking me to like church to pray for me. Like, this girl can have dreams that are scary. Then I would also dream things and they would happen. So that was really scary for my mom, especially. And she would take, I remember there's this white pastor guy who came and they brought him and said, oh, pray for her, and he's looking in my hands and he says, oh, I can see her hands. I think she's going to be, I feel like I can see she's going to be a mechanic. And I'm like, what do you mean a mechanic? Like, I'm just confused that, like a child you go. So that for me was always like, okay, how come it can almost feel like, I mean, normal, like how come I can dream, and especially what makes it question yourself like that is the way your parents react.
Exactly.
So when your parents react like, oh my God, you need prayer, something is wrong with you, you start to feel like, okay, I think something is really wrong with me. The second thing, in one of the dreams, one time, because my mom is Catholic, we grew up praying both sides, Catholic, Anglican. So I did have an encounter with Mother Mary because that's what I knew. But the encounter was really divine and real, and she came to me, and I kept telling her, take me with you, and she's just, in all that divinity and glory and light. There was just so much light, so much peace, so much calmness, and in my childlike behavior, I just kept saying, don't go, take me. Which is interesting because where was she going to take you? Yeah. So I woke up crying. I go to my parents. I'm distressed. I say, I've seen Mother Mary. She has left me. And up to now, my mom says, oh, do you remember when you saw Mother Mary and things like that? And then the second thing that really also got me thinking is, okay, something's off. There was this lady who was unwell in the neighborhood, and she was really, really unwell, and everyone was worried that she's going to transition. So because we used to have fellowships and pray at our home, my mom tells all of us, guys, let's go and pray for this person. And we go and we start praying. But you're a child, so the prayers, you may not pray the way the adults are praying. Yeah,
but you're innocent.
But you're there, you're innocent. So I remember we're seated in this lady's house. I'm just seated, and they start praying. And I felt energy leave me, and I felt it go into her. Exactly. And I remember I turned and looked at her, like, like you've taken something from me. Yeah, yes. I felt it. I felt like you've taken something from me. So I turned and looked at her, but then everyone's like, like everybody's praying, but I'm just looking at her like, why did you do that? Like, I don't understand what happened. But then when I grew up, I started now remembering why when someone touched Jesus' cloak, he turned and said, who touched me? Okay. That's how I felt.
Do you know what I want to say about that? When we're children, we're pure innocence. Yeah. And what you've just explained or told us here is the truth that you experience, proving that we're more than the body, the thoughts, the experiences, but an energy being. Exactly. An energy being, because that's our first mode of communication. And because it depends on the narrative you're born in a collective, it is seen as evil, taboo, or a troubled child. They'll say the child is troubled. They're going to rebuke a devil. But your consciousness, which you are, is already pure. It has no definition. It hasn't yet been grounded here. So you know who you really are, the infinite, limitless being that can perceive every realm of existence. So the reason why I wanted you to share your own experience, me as a child, I used to fly in my dreams. Even now as an adult, I'm having them, but I'm no longer scared. So I would wake up in the morning and I tell my parents, oh, I flew over this city. And truly, I was flying over the city. So I was told I overfed. It was food. They call it food dreams. But it's because when we're pure children, innocence, no wonder it says, be like a child to enter the kingdom. And I've since realized the kingdom is not something outside, it's our highest consciousness. So as you grew up, was this consciousness numbed out, or did you continue staying tuned to that trueness of you, bigger than the body presence?
To be honest, I think as the more I grew, the more I got afraid of it. I was so afraid to a point that I was afraid of dreaming. I was afraid of the dreams. I used to be afraid of sleeping alone. I'd always want to sleep with my sister Belinda.
And the light. You wanted the light on?
I always wanted the light on, because in the darkness it almost feels like you come to face that consciousness. It's now that I'm an adult that I'm realizing, oh, the darkness is your friend. Yes. But as a child, of course, also with the way we grow up, you grow up being told, watching, now you're starting to watch TV, you're starting to read books, and there's this narrative that's pushed of like, oh, be afraid of the dark is coming, or whatever. And so now you're starting to take in information from the world is starting to shape that
condition and program to be aware
to be
of a
certain way, to limit it. And of course, the fact that I've grown up in church, there's also there are parameters of things that are of God and of the devil. And so if you dream something that is maybe like, if you're dreaming dead people, everyone will say, oh my God, well, pray against that, you're dreaming about dead people. And I'm thinking, but these dead people are your relatives. Like, why are you so afraid of them?
Yes.
You get, it's not like you're dreaming random dead people. When you dream of the dead, it's someone you knew, someone you were attached to, someone in your bloodline, in your DNA. So it's later on you start to realize this. But we go on across the journey. My childhood growing up, my mom always knew, and she says it up to now, she said, Brenda, in her voice, know that you had an anointing on you. You're an anointed child. And so every time she would have people to pray for, she would take me, or if someone come and say, oh, my mom is a Boki, so a Boki, oh yeah, Toki, I'm a Boki as well. So they'll tell her, come and pray for me, and she'd say, no, let me call Brenda, she can pray for you and you heal. So she also always knew that I could heal.
Because your energy was pure.
Yes, but also growing as an adult, like I'm in high school, she knows that this girl can pray for you and you heal. So she always tell me, pray for this. Even up to now, when there's something, she says, Brenda, you're the only one who can pray for this, and it happens. So I guess you grow up, yes, it's stifled, but it's limited. But the only way you get a glimpse of its expansion is within the parameters of, let's say, within the parameter, within certain acceptable, not letting fully reveal it. And yeah, so even in high school, I would have so many dreams. I would dream the energies in the dormitories. I would dream, and it's like you're fighting. I would dream, so because we are conditioned to fear snakes, snakes, so I would dream the snakes. It's until we'll talk about after growing up, but yes. So you have all these dreams. I remember in S4, I became the Bible study leader. Okay. And we'd have, for our year group, and we'd have sessions, and those sessions would always end up in killing sessions. Like somehow people are crying, people are releasing, and I'm thinking, what do I do? Like I would feel like I'm not even doing much. I'm like, let's read the Bible. Before you know it, it's not about the Bible. It's people are healing.
Actually, your presence.
Yes. So I got to a point where and then now people are starting to say, oh, pray for me, I have a headache, hold me, touch me. And for me, it was overwhelming. It's like, guys, I just want to be a normal child. Like, let me be normal. One of the other things I really need to talk about is in church.
Okay, and I wanted to go to the church.
Okay. So back in school, we'd have retreats and prayers. Yes. They would bring people to lead prayers, and they would pray and pray people. People start falling, and you I'd always be the one who's just there looking. So I started to also think I have a problem.
I want to take you to that story because that's what, when I was meditating this morning, I just saw that we have to talk about church. You have to talk about your church experience. We now know that we're energy beings, and how the energy flows in a collective depends on what I call the thinking that space is holding. In my case, I realized myself as being the energy being when I used to go for church, and people would pray and fall. Like you said, they'll fall, but I would like, in me there's something saying like this, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's manifesting the wrong way. With time I realized what people used to call being slayed in the spirit or casting out demons is actually your energy that has been misaligned, and it is recalibrating. So one time I did it to myself. I was agitated at home, and I was so agitated. I remember I shouted so loud, the energy in me came out, threw me down, and threw me back up. So what did I do? I dispelled what we call casting out a demon, misaligned energies that were bringing the disharmony. And the moment it threw me back down myself, I was at peace. So when you say you're in church and you used to see people fall, but because you had already come when you had,
I think I was grounded, the energy was grounded. Yes, I wrote about that recently because people asking me to explain about 7 chakras and things like that and stuff. And I wrote about that energy movement. That's what happens is if you're not calibrated or grounded yourself,
in your energy,
it moves you. So it's a normal thing. And you see and I told people that with Africans, they used to move that energy intentionally through dance. Through rhythm. If you saw our dancers are like West dancers, they are based on the West to cause the energy to move, So for them, they would move it intentionally, whether you like to or not. But now when you go to church and you end up doing like crazy praise, then get into worship, where we now take you to meditative alpha states, then the energy moves. And so when it moves, for some people, it overwhelms them, and then they
slow them down.
But now as a child, you don't know all that.
Exactly.
So as a child, you start to feel that you are not worthy. The Spirit of God has
left you.
So imagine a preacher saying, I'm sending the Holy Spirit out into this space. Everyone is going to feel it. Then you see the ones who are feeling it are what? Falling. Now you're like, this.
But you see,
And you don't know, so you start to think, okay, I think either I'm so evil,
yes,
the demons on me are so strong,
yeah.
or you just think something is wrong
And
with
do you know why that is?
Mhm.
You were never given the truth of
the
yourself.
truth of that.
Not,
Exactly. Because at that point you're not yet aware.
yeah, you're
So
not conscious of it.
actually, remember another thing happened. They brought a preacher, a priest at church. He was very anointed, and he said, "This for this retreat, I'm going to live with a spirit of joy." And indeed, people started to laugh uncontrollably.
But you know why? He had embodied joy in himself.
Yes, he was. Oh, Father Pussycat is a very
Embodiment.
anointed guy. We used to call him Father Pussycat, but I think he's a priest at in Zambia, and he gave people that spirit. He just kept it, and people started laughing. Guess who was not laughing uncontrollably? Me. And I'm like, really? Even this one has missed me.
Why? Because you did not need healing.
Yeah,
Laughter
I
is
didn't need
healing.
that
You
spirit.
were grounded
Yeah.
in your authenticity of being.
Which I wasn't aware of
Yes.
then. I mean, it was subconscious,
Yes,
probably.
subconscious, but
Yeah.
in a way, your mom kind of protected that energy,
Yes.
that consciousness that you
to
came with.
Yeah.
She never defamed it. She saw it as special, so it stayed grounded.
So it stayed grounded.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Irene.
So what I'm trying to bring out here is we have all been born in a narrative where the collective have hidden the truth of our being. If we are energy immortal beings, then there is a way in which we're supposed to embody this vessel, the temple, so as to self-realize it authentically and in right power. This is what came to my consciousness and feeling when I asked, why do we say, for me, one of the things that got me out of church is I found my language degenerating. I was cursing, as in, those will die, me, I'm of God. When I started realizing it didn't sit well with my body, and then I also realized every time they mentioned the word devil, the real me would shake and say, no, devil is simply the energy reversed, so it's going to give you a disharmonic. So our consciousness has been turned to the wrong way in which we're supposed to pay attention and make it self-realized. So to me, to this day, the word devil, when someone mentions the devil, I know, oh, it's just someone who has misaligned their energy, so it's giving them a disharmonic appearance and expression. And I do understand when they say they're casting out demons, the chakras, the energy that hold our true, if its metabolism is in reverse, negative, then you twist it, what they call wicked, which we call devil. Do you know if devil is simply life that has been reversed and instead taking away your life? So the point that I'm trying to get to is, if we do not find the right story of who we're supposed to be, we end up miscreating, misusing the energy and giving it to our authority to something outside. So you as a child came conscious. Actually, every child comes conscious. But depending on the narrative that you're going through, it starts to be limited. For me, it was family first, school. School limited me because
conditioning
you to be a certain person. I used to speak more with images. In fact, now I use memes a lot. An image comes and I know what it is telling me. The energy just speaks. So when we used to have lessons, instead of writing notes, I used to draw cartoons. But I knew what I was writing, So school also took me further away from this consciousness. And then, of course, came many other things. The family tells you, the society has a structure. I don't know which stage you are in your life. Me, I've ticked off everything that society said I'm supposed to do, and I still felt empty. Why? Because the unique energy that I came to house this body came with talents, like you knew yours was healing, gifts, mine is listening, hearing, and writing. And as long as whatever you're doing is aligned with you, it actually heals people. So you showed up in your energy. That's why people would just be around you and heal. But we had got this conception that God only operates in a location, through a few people, and that through a book, but you are not God in the flesh. But you have experienced it. So would I be wrong if I said that the reason for life is for life existence itself to individually self-realize this timeless life existence through self-awareness? So what attracted me also to you was you are so passionate about self-awareness. What brought you to
that point?
Yes.
I think again, Erin, like I love that you've put it together you've summarized it all up to what is life. The question, what is life?
Yes.
So you grow up, and of course, you're a child, you're a teenager, you're an adult. You're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with opinions. You're dealing with all kinds of societal setting that you're in. Like you said, you're born into a societal setting.
Yes.
So I think by the time I left my O-level school, I was really feeling tired of the whole. It's actually
the gifts.
Yes, because no one was there to tell me about who I am.
So could we say they were kind of drowning you now?
I felt overwhelmed because I
it
didn't
was
know what to do
drowning
with
you.
them, the dreams. So I reached a point and I told God, I don't want them anymore. Please take your gifts. Someone's like, oh, you can't run out from where? I'm like, no, I'm telling him. And I told him, I said, look, because at that point, God is a person.
Yes,
like,
at that point.
You're there.
I'm here.
Take your gifts. All I want to be is a child. I don't want them. Take them. My mom say, oh, I'm gifted. No, I don't want. I say, take them. So I switched schools. And when I switched schools, I went to a Muslim traditional school. And I remember something funny happened because I think after making that declaration, imagine my Bible got stolen, which I knew inside out, which I was shocked about. I said, how can a Bible get stolen in a Muslim school? But it got stolen, and I felt like, okay, yeah, finally, I'm no longer, and in my mind, I really thought I'm going to finally be a normal Christian, go to church on Sundays, and Then you go to university, I partied hard. I'm like, I'm free. I'm finally free. And I remember so many people tell me, darling, you cannot run away from God, whichever version of God they had then.
Yes.
Which I had then. Yes. Because again, it's limited to the church
that you went to.
Was
yes.
told to us. Yeah. God is He, God is the creator, the creation. So you at that point you don't know much.
Yes.
But I'll tell you where the turning point comes in. So of course, yes, you're trying to learn more about yourself. But my turning point started in 2017.
Wow.
When I met my mentor. At that time, she's called Dr. Naraboy. I talk about her all the time because she really transformed.
So that saying is true. When the student is ready,
the master appears.
The teacher
appears.
When they become a master,
and when the
teacher
is truly ready, the teacher will go. Because now,
you know it.
Yes. So she introduces me to journaling. I was already a writer throughout school. I would write stories. I would win prizes for English literature, storytelling. My imagination was wild from childhood. I would imagine. Actually, people think that I've traveled because in my mind I would go to different.
Can I just take you back to the imagination? It's good you brought it back because that's another God ability that gets stunted.
It's limited to
it's
school.
Limited to either school,
composition, writing,
or to create an image that will control you.
Yes.
Storytelling. How is your imagination now?
Oh, honestly, I feel like when I was young, it was like better.
You know why?
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to tell you that.
Pureness.
When you are still pure and conscious of being that there's no limits, your imagination is free. But now you're filtering it
sort
through.
Of filter it. You sort of think about other
So
things.
you
You don't even get time for it because I remember when I was young, I would lay in bed just to imagine.
And
so
I would travel.
I would travel. So I would go to the States. I grew up.
I've got goosebumps.
Oh, nice.
As a child, I traveled the world.
Like through my imagination.
Yes.
And I grew up being asked, have you traveled before? And I'd never traveled at that time. But because of the world speak and the world, it's like I've seen the world. So I would see the world.
Can I cut you short?
My imagination.
You actually traveled.
Yes.
We now, what people call time travel. Because being an infinite, timeless, limitless existence, your consciousness goes wherever you put it. But when we come into the realm of the human experience, it is quarantined, conditioned, programmed, and you are actually creating that limitation for yourself. Okay, may your imagination come.
It's back. It's just, I just remember how it was when I was younger because I used to write stories from primary. My mom had compiled all of them. I think my mom also plays a big role in that journey because she'd compile all my stories. Yes, she compiled all the stories as really good. Like imagine a young kid and writing stories that she wanted to turn them into a book. Unfortunately, that what she had compiled got burnt in a fire. But it's okay.
Okay, fine.
We talk about that.
Yeah,
like,
it's okay.
You remember throughout high school, I used to win prizes for being the best in English language, like exams, composition writing. The literature teachers used to think I'm missing their classes, yet I didn't do literature. Because in their minds, they're like, obviously you do literature. I didn't do literature.
It's one of your innate gifts. You came to tell stories.
So that's how I get attached to that idea of storytelling, because I'm already a storyteller, but I also have My parents, both of them are writers. They're really good writers, both of them. My grandfather was a writer. He'd write stories in the local language. He wrote the dictionary. I'll show you the dictionary.
Wow.
So I'm also now already in that space of writers. And so it comes really, there's passion. My father would buy us newspapers at the age of 3, 4, and we're reading. So I become a good reader and writer.
Did they ever flaunt the do sciences in your face?
Later on, but not for me. I saw it with my sisters because now at that point the sciences are getting, a lot of PR
attention. Yeah.
And so my sister is like, oh, you have to do sciences, you have to be a doctor. And because we're young, when we see that, we take it on. So we all take it on. So but I also did sciences out of choice. I think it was writing too much. I wanted to write for fun. I wanted to do creative writing, not writing to cram.
So points. What I was actually drawing out of you is that education then stunts and locks out a given talent. A natural talent.
So naturally you're good at writing a story.
Which, if you asked me, is that which you're supposed to put in what we call employment, yet it is service. Because you've truly aligned with whatever avenues that were put in place in existence that would serve you back in money, people, locations, travel. So we're here sharing with Brenda on Soul Talk because we want to bring into your conscious mind that you're more than your body, you're more than your thoughts, you're more than your experiences. I mean, we've all had someone exit, which we call dying. They leave behind the body. Who is that who left? And when we're born into this realm, we are conscious of that bigger presence, awareness, the one that creates from what it pays attention. But when a narrative is given for us for the past 2,000 years, we've been waiting for Jesus. Please, we're not being religious, we're just talking peace. This is a place for openness. The reason why I brought Brenda Lynn and many others is there are many people out there right now who are experiencing their self. They call it self. They're realizing I'm more than the car, the house. I've ticked off the wife, husband. I've chased this, but I feel like my energy hasn't come because you're a creator big. You came to create. So she's sharing her moments where she realized, hang on a minute, I'm more than just this body. And we're going through the various stages because when we talk about personal development and milestones, we look at infancy, childhood, teenager, adolescence, adult, marriage, society, work, retire, death. That's the script. And so we put our attention to realize the self through a script that has already been programmed to keep you limited from knowing that beyond that you are it that makes all this happen. So now that you've talked about your childhood, these are things that I write down when this is prayer time. So these are things I wanted to know. You've talked about adulthood, teenage, I'm surprised my career. Also me, when I got to university, I went wild crazy. Because I felt like my energy had been locked.
I did party a lot.
What I want to focus on is now the family dynamics, the relationship. As a child, as an adult, have you seen anything change, or is it still the same? So because now you're really self-realizing yourself and you're coming out of the closet and speaking who you are, and being a hypocrite. That's my tagline. Has it changed the family dynamic? Because let's face it, when you start realizing that you're more than the child, the nation, the skin, the academics, I'm mainly going to take you either to relationships and church, because those are the two areas where when I self-realized, I got the hardest brunt. Family and religion, not so much occupation. Academics, me as a rebel, and I made it through. I've always pushed my gift. Occupation, yes, I'm jumping around because I want to find the right platform for my expression. But I got the brunt from my church or religion and family. How has it been for you?
Let me just to even continue from the journaling. That once I was introduced to journaling, it took me back. That's why I talk about imagination and storytelling. Journaling then took me back to that child who loved writing, who told stories. But also I discovered something that when I journaled, I downloaded information.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes. So I thank my mentor then, Dr. Nora Boya, for introducing me to journaling. She told me if you're going to have a year plan, have a long-term plan, 20 years, but to write every day, you need a journal. So so she introduced me to journaling for the purpose of personal development. But let me just say that the real person who introduced me to writing in a book was at the age.
Amen to that.
Yes, I remember at the age of 8 years old.
So you see how our parents are tuned into our gift.
Yes, I don't know if she knew it consciously or subconsciously, but the reason I became a good writer, or I was already a good writer, but I expressed it, or manifested
Yes.
it, is at the age of 7 or 8, my mom bought me my first diary. But I didn't know how to write for personal development.
Yes.
I used to write emotions.
Emotions,
I'm angry.
yes.
I feel bad.
Can we talk a bit before on that journalist? Do you think, I don't think, I've become aware that we're using journaling the wrong way.
I was personally when
Yes.
my mom would buy me the books, but then eventually as I grew,
Yes.
I started to write stories. That's how
Yes.
now I compile stories
Okay.
and I become a good writer. But what I guess the difference between my mom who introduced me to journaling at a younger age is she gave me a book. She didn't tell me what to do with it. So I would do whatever.
Free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the difference with Dr. Nora Wire, because while she's a trained coach,
She focused you.
She focused me. She showed me how to journal for the sake of creating the life that you desire.
Yes.
So I guess that was the only difference. But yes, both my mom and Dr. Nora Wire introduced me to journaling at a young age. Now 2017 I start to journal. And I'm starting to download information 2018, and sometimes I would say, okay,
where is this
so
coming
weird.
from?
Yes, like I'm connecting patterns. I would be writing and my mind takes me back to a point in my childhood.
Yes.
And I write and it's taking me back to showing me different things. And then because I used to read a lot, I was able to see the patterns. Like I would remember something from the Bible and connect it to something I've read in a book.
Yes.
And everything was connected.
The pattern of life.
Exactly. And so I will say that how do I start now the spiritual journey, the not the church journey,
Self-awareness journey, the spiritual.
self-awareness. So now I'm becoming self-aware because she told me you have to know yourself. She introduces me to the tools of self-awareness, BTI, DISC, different tools. She really did a good job, and she kept telling me you're not meant to be where you are right now. You're meant to talk to people. That's what she used to
She
tell
said
me.
it.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
meant to talk to people.
Yeah.
And she would take me with her to her own trainings, her own coaching sessions, and she'd introduce me this way. She'd say, "This is Brenda Lynn. She's a young girl. I know you because now we're dealing with the adults.
Yes.
She looks very young, but give her a chance.
Yes.
She will transform
To
your
prepare
life."
them to listen.
Yes. And indeed, some people would look at me and they would even tell me, you know, at first we thought you're really young, but when you speak, you know, so she
The wisdom
really,
you.
honestly, she set a very strong foundation for me in terms of confidence. I was already a confident young girl, but in terms of confidence in that area, in personal, so I got passionate about personal development. I got passionate about self-awareness because for me, being self-aware unlocked so much that everything started to make sense. The dreams when I was young, the healing. Then I started to say I'm a healer. Like I started to embrace those things.
Whoever you felt
Yes,
you were tangibly authentic is the word I was trying to get.
Actually, and that's how I started to have a tagline of making authentic living a lifestyle. I used to say my mission is to inspire authenticity in others. So everything I did was I would ask myself, am I being myself? When I speak to this person, can I feel like I can be myself with them? That's how I'll tell that there's safety, there's this. So that is really where the journey starts. But let me tell you what really now drove me to spiritual awareness
Exactly.
was a heartbreak. And
Can I first stop you there?
Yes.
Do you know that everybody has what we call a knock on the head?
Yeah.
And that's where they wake up.
Yeah.
Either someone wants to commit suicide because someone has left them,
Yeah.
or you run broke and you think life is so that
We
was
could-
your waking up
Yeah, we
point.
call it the dark night of the soul in tarot. Everyone has a dark night of the soul.
And I choose now to call it the key to my freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if you're actually in tarot, there's also like this idea that when you're on the cliff and you're gonna fall off that cliff, you know. But in falling off, that's when you
Find yourself.
Yeah. So yes, so for me, I think that I got into a very toxic relationship with a very narcissistic human being.
We'll talk about narcissism later, but that was your waking.
So that was it. And when I got into it,